Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to explore something incredibly powerful, something many of you have felt, but maybe haven't fully understood: the protection of our divine masculine. Like the title speaks for itself, our divine masculine is protecting us in ways we can't see, how our divine masculine guards us beyond space and time. And it's something very, very close to my heart because, at every stage of our twin flame journey, you would realize that, excuse me, despite all that happens, our divine masculine is always looking out for us. The protection of our divine masculine, even when he may not be physically there with us, even when he's silent, even in the silence, even when it looks like he's gone. So, in today's teaching, I want to speak directly to the part of you who knows, who feels it when you are suddenly held, when you are suddenly safe, when you are suddenly pulled back from something that could have harmed you. This is the dimension of monadic twin flame protection, the silent field work our divine masculine does across time, space, dreams, and soul memories. So let's go deep. So the field doesn't lie. Feeling our divine masculines in times of threat. So there are moments on this journey when we feel energetically invaded. It could be a psychic attack, it could be a nasty person, it could be a karmic projection, or a subtle distortion in the field. And when it feels overwhelming, something shifts. Our nervous system calms, the noise clears, and we feel our divine masculine. And this isn't imagination, guys. It's the third energy. Our divine masculine may not know it consciously. He may even be rejecting us in the 3D, but his soul never stopped watching over us. Because at the monadic twin flame level, his field is programmed to protect us, even from afar, even without awareness. So this is what I would call the silent shield effect. How our divine masculine's presence alters the timeline. So this is something that I've always wanted to talk to you guys about, and that's why I've called it the silent shield effect. All right. So it's when our divine masculine's presence in the quantum field redirects outcomes. Timelines that could have spiraled into trauma or breakdown suddenly shift. We might escape a confrontation that was brewing, avoid an emotional collapse that we were being headed towards, or feel a sudden clarity or boundary snap into place. It's not always our divine masculine doing it consciously, but his field interlocks with ours. And when something external is trying to interfere, that bond acts as a shield. All right. In the same way, you have protected, in the same way, we have protected our divine masculine countless time without our divine masculine's awareness. Our divine masculine does the same for us. So I've seen this over and over with so many of my clients. Like examples will be, some clients will be like saying that they're energetically being attacked, like they're getting like cyber attacks, or they're having a horrible boss, or especially when they are in the midst of getting a promotion or something, or when as divine feminines, our light, our power is dimming, our throat chakra tightens, and we cry out to our divine masculine, not to the universe. And then we feel our divine masculine's energy, and our divine masculine is often so wise, isn't he? That's why, many of you guys have told me, the voice of our divine masculine is silence. He doesn't need to speak. You just feel the energies of your DM just around you, like being next to you, or even being behind you, just reminding you, that he's there. That presence is undeniable. And it's like some of you guys have even told me that you've had visions, like your DM is like dealing with the situation for you in like 5D, it's like arms crossed, stern, powerful, and the next day, the next morning, the interference stopped, and a couple of hours later, our divine masculine's name would appear, on a billboard somewhere. So this is like our divine masculine's energy returning, without a need for a 3D message, you see. And our protection is written into union codes. Here's the deeper teaching. And as divine, as monadic twin flames, as divine feminines on a monadic twin flame journey, our souls agreed to interlock codes with our divine masculine. And this not only serves love, but protection as well. That's why in past lives, we are often guardians for each other. In higher dimensions, our union template is shielded from infiltration, but only if we anchor it with truth. So this is why when we reclaim our sovereignty, our divine masculine's field activates. Even if he's sleeping in the 3D, his soul starts standing at your gates. It's like it's written in our cosmic blueprint, like that our divine masculine will guard our frequency even when we are under psychic war. And let's be real, the frequency, the journey is a frequency war, which is why monadic twin flame protection matters. So that's why it's not just romance, it's field level devotion. This is where we go deeper than any kind of love out there. This is not about sweet words or promises. This is not about he loves me or he doesn't. This is about the field of devotion, when love is not a performance. It's beyond that, right? And within that design, our divine masculine takes his pose silently, fiercely, even when he's not with us physically, even when you think he's forgotten, because deep down his soul knows if she falls, he will fall too, and he must protect us, his divine feminine. So that's why, countless times I've experienced this a lot. Even when I was in separation, like, I'll be very upset about something and I'll be like wishing, oh, if my DM was around, and suddenly the problem would be solved, or, like there'll be some kind of support. Like I would like feel my DM's energy, I'll feel his hug, I'll feel like he's just standing behind me, like protecting me. I'll just like feel his presence, and often the problem would just go away. So that's why don't doubt what you feel, because this is real. Some of you are feeling your divine masculine's protection right now. You're watching this because you felt a shift in your energy recently. You're about to collapse and something caught you. Maybe you thought, did he just come into my dream? Maybe you felt your divine masculine's energy show up when you were under attack. Maybe your third eye saw him just for a moment. Believe it, this is not wishful thinking. This is the divine design of the monadic twin flame union at work, that our divine masculine is guarding the part of us that guards him too, like, because literally he's guarding the part of you that guards him too. So that's why, to every divine feminine out there, to every fellow divine feminine out there watching this, if you're in separation and it feels, if you're carrying everything alone, know this: we are not unguarded. We are not unseen. We are not foolish for feeling our divine masculine's protection, because our divine masculine is working behind the scenes in ways we may never fully know, because true love doesn't always look like a message. Sometimes it looks like a shield. And even if he's silent, the protection, that devotion is already flowing to us through the field. So as we delve deeper, I wanted to talk about the sacred God, like, where his field stands, where his ego cannot. So I want to continue this teaching by going even deeper into what it really means when we say that the divine masculine is protecting us, right? Even if his personality seems to reject us, because here's the paradox: in 3D he might ignore us, he might block us, he might even attack us, accuse us, humiliate us, but in 5D, our divine masculine is guarding us like we are a goddess in a temple, like, and that, so he's literally like the temple priest, like guarding the temple itself, which is us. So the contradiction is when he hurts us with his words or absent while he's guarding us in the higher realms, it is not delusion. It's the nature of the split field in the twin flame journey. And nowhere is that more clear than in the monadic twin flame template, you see. So your question may be, how can he protect us if he's hurting us? So let's be real. This is the part that many divine feminines, we feel crazy about, right? How can he protect me if he's accusing me of, saying that, I'm like watching over him, blah, 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 like how can he be protecting me if he's accusing me of stalking? How can he be my guardian if he's ghosting me, or he's being category 1, being with marrying someone else, or humiliating me publicly? Here's the deeper truth. Ego does not cancel soul mission. Fear does not override field agreement. What our divine masculine does in his unhealed reactive state may be ugly, but that doesn't mean his soul has abandoned his role as a guardian. So what it means is that there's a disconnect because his conscious ego self and monadic field template is disconnected. That's why it's not like he has forgotten his post or role, but the field has not. He may have forgotten his post, but the field will not. So the guardian archetype lives in his energy body. So this is something most people don't realize. Every divine masculine holds an energetic archetype of the sacred guardian. You may feel it when you walk into a room and see a strong energetic buffer, about to say something online and suddenly feel pause, or you sense your divine masculine's presence during a psychic attack as if his energy flashes in and asserts dominance, or you're crumbling and suddenly feel a wave of protection come over you. So that's not in your head. That's his energy body doing what his ego won't let him do. So stand between you. That's his energy body doing what his ego won't let you do, like stand between you and harm. So that's why, let's look at some examples from the journey, right? The field response first. So let me give you an example of of a situation where the divine feminine is being hurt in public because after 3 years she bumps into a divine masculine, or she tries to orchestrate the meeting to see the divine masculine one last time, and in that 3 years no contact, no messages, nothing. Maybe the 3 years of separation she might have sent him, like, let's say, a birthday text. That's about it. And then the DM lashes out at her, accuses her of stalking when it's impossible. How can it be stalking when it's like the only time? And let's add in another part to this scenario. He's leaving the country and that's the last time they're going to see each other. And how can he accuse her of stalking? So in a way, can you see where this is going? In the 3D, he may look like he's creating the distortion. He may look like he is being the pain of her life. But in reality, he's actually guarding her. He's protecting her. So the 3D and 5D are disconnected. You see where I'm coming from? So in the 3D, he has forgotten his role as a guardian. That's why after that incident, he probably grieves, he gets crushed. He may even block the divine feminine out of guilt. But of course, to the divine feminine, she may feel like that this is it, this is the end. If he could accuse her of something like that, she would feel like there's nothing she can do, and that is true. But when the field reconnects and when he starts remembering what it is, he returns. So going back to an example, so you may feel like the divine masculine, our divine masculine is the enemy in the 3D, but in actuality, he's not. It is the energies. Because if we were to analyze this scenario, he was also in total chaos. He may have been sacked at work. He may have not had a plan for his future. And he's also worried that he's leaving the country. He's also afraid because in the 3 years, at least he knew he was in the same country as his divine feminine. Even though they might not have been in touch, there was this silence. There was this assurance that she's around. So the moment he knows he's leaving the country, he needs to, and he knows that the divine feminine is going to be broken. So he creates that. He creates that fight. He creates that discomfort so that the divine feminine will move on. So even in the 3D, he's protecting the divine feminine in the most limited ways he knows, meaning cutting her off so that she can move on, right? But in actuality, because he has already been programmed to protect us, he might do it in any way. It's like, in those movies where the protagonist will be so in love with the girl, but then he will tell her that he doesn't like her, he's not interested in her, because when the movie goes out of focus, you realize that the backstory is, if he gets together with the divine feminine, there will be something that he might be an hindrance to a success, like the Adjustment Bureau movie, right? Like, why does Matt Damon disappear from the hospital? So it's like one of those situations, like why like sometimes the divine masculine's actions in the 3D might not align with the real reason why he's shutting us out, cutting us out. He may have that Martha complex, of like, oh, if I do this, she'll move on, she'll be with someone else, or he might be going through an ailment. He might have, he might be having problems in his sacral, so he may feel like, if I get together with my divine feminine, what if she rejects me? Like, he might be dealing with issues down there, or he might have some kind of a illness, or he might feel like he will be a hindrance in the journey. So going back to that example, the reason why he might have lashed out on the divine feminine is because he just got fired and the divine feminine is doing really well. She's really successful, and he doesn't want to be a burden. He doesn't want her he doesn't want to stifle her progress, because he thinks that she will be better off without him. So creating that termination, blocking her on social media, telling her off, telling her that he, by lashing out, it's a kind of protection, but in his own 3D screwed up way. So going back to the 5D, so he does all this protecting from others, because that's the divine masculine's role, to protect us multidimensionally. So in the 3D, see, the 3D world in itself is a bunch of contradictions, right? It's never what it seems. That's the problem, right? Again, going back to a movie example, in a movie, both of them will be really in love with each other, but then the guy would decide to withdraw. And then the girl won't understand. She will think that, oh, he doesn't like me anymore. But then the backstory will be that his mother is ill and he has to return back to the country, and he doesn't know what is going to be of his future because his responsibility increased. Or it could be he has lost his job and he's too embarrassed that he can't support his divine feminine, even though the divine feminine might be financially secure, but he feels embarrassed because the divine masculine is programmed to be the protector, to be the provider. So he doesn't want to be a hindrance. So that's why not all bad events are actually bad events. They are multi-layered. So sometimes we have to go into the state of watchfulness to try to understand why our DM, you see, it hurts. What actually hurts when our DM behaves like that? It's our ego that is hurt. Because if we truly loved our DM, we'll be able to see beyond everything, right? Yes, but at the same time, that kind of behavior is not acceptable either. So you see, there's a thin line between going down and being the wounded feminine and accepting is misbehavior, or elevating to the empowered divine feminine and realizing there's a reason why he acted that way. He might have had a bad day. Maybe, he was in a rush to go somewhere. Maybe our energies played with his nervous system. Maybe there was something that we were doing to our divine masculine that triggered him. It could be anything. But in order to even see these things, we need to let go of the ego. We need to let go of the 3D incidents. We need to let go of the words. He said the behavior. Only then we can have a multi-dimensional, we can have a wide perspective on what it could be in any event, be it an action of blocking, be it a text that he never replies to. There's always a million reasons, It's just that when we hurt deep as divine feminine. So we don't even have the energy or we don't even have the strength to see beyond what could be the truth, because our ego is hurt. The fear that we will never get into union, the fear that past life events might happen again. So, there are other ways our divine masculines help us to, what I will call a non-negotiable protection, Energetically, he may create that to help protect us from everyone else. So sometimes, So that's why you need to understand, when our divine masculines field intervenes in other situations, it is real. So then, category 1 divine feminines might ask me this. What if he's with a karmic partner? What if he's married? What if he hates me? So let me say this really clearly. The karmic wall can delay a physical reunion, but it cannot break the monadic field. So there's a reason that right now, when you are under spiritual attack, you feel your DM's energy surge forward like a heat shield, a psychic wall, a no-nonsense back or field. His soul knows our frequency. It knows how to stand in front of it, even when our divine masculine's ego has run away. So that's why we may be blocked in the 3D, but you're still protected in the divine template. When we activate our power, our divine masculine awakens as a protector. So here's the most sacred part of this teaching. All right. When we reclaim our voice, when we start clearing our field, when we say, I don't need him to rescue me, I will stand in my sovereignty, that's when his soul steps forward, because the divine masculine doesn't respond to begging. So that's why, going back to a fictitious situation where you're begging for his forgiveness, after he accuses you of stuff and you're still begging for his forgiveness, he thinks like, what's wrong with the divine feminine? Why can't she see that she doesn't even need to apologize? Like, why does she have to go into victim mode? That infuriates him further. That frustrates him further, because he just doesn't understand what is going on, because energetically he's rattled, and he's so angry. You see, there's no reason for a person to be so angry with you, and hypothetically, no contact, no message. But before that, you had spent a lot of time together. There's no reason. But why do divine masculines behave that way? Because the energies were volatile at that moment. And our divine masculine doesn't respond to begging. He responds to frequency integrity. At the moment when we return to our stillness, the moment we stop collapsing, his protector field reactivates. Because in a monadic twin flame union, our power is what calls him back to his post. You may not see him. You may not speak to him. He may have disappeared. But his soul hasn't left the post. So the next time you feel watched over, covered, paused before something dangerous, trust it. He may not be your boyfriend. He may never apologize. But somewhere in the realm beyond time and ego, our divine masculine is standing behind us. Because love doesn't always arrive as words. Sometimes it arrives as protection. So what does it really mean when we say our divine masculine protects us beyond space and time? Right? It means he's energetically present even when his body is gone. It means that our field carries a frequency of encoded union that has already made space for him in our nervous system, in our soul's design, and in moments of psychic invasion, spiritual interference, or energetic threat. So it is coded, And that's why he always surfaces as a guardian. Not because he's watching us through a camera or tracking our aura in the 3D, but because the divine masculine on the monadic level is a structured stabilizer. His polarity is not always expressive or verbal, it's protective, silent, anchored, shielding. That's why we feel our divine masculine when something bad is about to happen. That's why we dream of our divine masculine showing up right before an energetic attack. So this can happen in many ways. Sometimes you're in the middle of your work and you're starting to see flashes. These are all signs that our DM is always protecting us. So there are moments on this journey where our divine masculine's protective love just doesn't shield us from direct harm. It reroutes us away from paths that were never aligned with our highest purpose. So we may not even notice it as first. So sometimes, a collaboration may fall off, or something bad at work may happen, an invitation you were excited about gets cancelled, and suddenly you'll find yourself frustrated or confused. But in hindsight, those events were not rejections, they were interventions. So this is the part no one talks about. Our divine masculine in his higher self can block certain frequencies from reaching us, even if they seem beneficial. Why? So this is what I call the divine masculine sacred protection. Why? Because our divine masculine sees the timelines of our highest mission. Because our shared monadic field, the third energy between us, is coded to guard us from anything that will cost us peace, purpose, or soul dignity. So let me give you examples, where sometimes, you're attracting the wrong kind of clients at work, or if you're famous, you're getting the wrong kind of supporters, people praising you publicly while undermining you behind the scenes, people showing interest in you but then only to drain you out emotionally, trauma dumping, or just taking your energy, but just creating chaos. So every time this kind of situations happens with clients, they will always say that they will have a flash of their divine masculine, a surge of his energy, like a protective presence sweeping across the field like a veil, almost like the divine masculine, it's like warning us, hey, not this one, this person is not safe, So that's what's really beautiful, because our DMs always, and it has happened in my own life too, before, I'll have a hunch, that this might be not the right thing or something. My DM will come there right to me when I was in separation, it's like we are really in separation. We are really, really preparing for stable physical union. So everything that happens is actually preparation. Before certain emails, our divine masculine's energies would come in, like people who are trying to pretend that they're really nice but they're actually negative beings. Our DM would come in, or people who might have multi-layered words. They might try to, it might look like they're coming in to compliment you, but they're actually coming in to steal your energies, that kind of stuff. So that's why it's so important to recognize that sometimes you have to understand this. Our divine masculine might pull away sometimes, so that we learn to hear a voice of discernment, so that we learn to self-source our power, so that we stop letting anyone into our sacred spaces just because they may seem like light. So that's the hardest protection to accept, the invisible kind, that kind that doesn't feel like a hug, but like a closing door, but it's real, And if you feel energy surrounding you, if you suddenly sense that danger is around, and if you ever felt this quiet knowing this isn't for me, but when something seems shiny on the surface, that's our divine masculine, beyond time, beyond ego, beyond earth, protecting the one thing that matters to him the most, us. And through that, protecting the sacred field between you, all right? So we've been conditioned to believe that protection looks loud, that if someone loves us, they will defend us in public, they will speak up, they will confront the karmic, they will take our side, they will prove they care. But on the twin flame path, especially in the monadic twin flame journey, protection is rarely drama. It's rarely theater. It's often energetic, it's often hidden. And most of the time it's silence. It's silent, Let me tell you something, you may have all gone through this, you may have begged the universe, why didn't my DM defend me, when people misunderstood me, like you may have thought about it, especially when we're in the separation phases. This is very common nature, like when karmic interference try to sabotage your energy, your work, even your reputation. You wonder, like, if only he was here, or why isn't he doing anything, why won't he correct them, why this, why that. But what you didn't know is what as divine feminines we don't often know is that our divine masculine is divinely defending us. Not divine, defending us, just not in the way we would expect. His soul has already built a firewall to protect your mission. Our divine masculine energy is already holding a protective geometry so that bad things can't happen. Our divine masculine isn't wasting time engaging with low vibrational noise. He was redirecting it. That's what the silent raw is. It's when our divine masculine isn't reacting because he's responding. He's broadcasting a frequency to protect our field without playing into 3D drama. And this isn't weakness, this is mastery. Because in the higher planes, noise only amplifies chaos, but stillness redirects energy like a mirror. You see, our divine masculine isn't here to perform love. He's here to anchor it. So sometimes anchoring means saying nothing so the karmic can reveal themselves. Refusing to engage because your field deserves peace. Holding ground silently so you can rise without distraction. And let's be honest, would you really want your divine masculine defending you to someone who would never see you, who could never see you? Would that really matter? Does that really define your worth? Or is it the real protection, the fact that you're still here, unbroken, undefeated, unshakable, because our divine masculine was holding our energy behind the scenes? When he didn't show up to the fight, it's because he was winning the war, the energetic one. That's the silent roar that I'm talking about. It doesn't echo through rooms. It reverberates through timelines. And one day you will see all the way our divine masculine fights for us, even when it looked like he wasn't standing with us, right? Excuse me, guys. So I know at this point you're probably thinking, what does this all mean? Like, how does it all matter? So, as I'm going to wrap up our discuss, I want to touch on the last 2 points, all right? To wrap up this whole notion of what it all means. So remember, our divine masculine's absence is often an armor because his distance kept us on the path of sovereignty, So that's what I want to talk about, right? How his distance keeps us on the path of sovereignty. There's a sacred pain in separation. There's a sacred distortion in separation, right? It drips through the illusion that someone else will save us. It kind of destroys the fantasy that love must always hold our hand, and it forces us divine feminines into the most terrifying initiation, standing alone. But what if our divine masculine's absence wasn't protection? Sorry, wasn't punishment, but is actually protection. Not just from the karmics, not just from chaos, but from the parts of us that weren't ready to embody our own throne. You see, monadic twin flames are not here to play the usual romantic scripts. We don't get cuddled. We don't get the fairy tale right away. We get the fire. And that fire, it's lit by the space he leaves behind. Because when he withdraws, when he goes, when he says, I'm not ready, I'm not interested, I don't like you, go away. What he's really doing, it's in a higher level, on a higher level, is creating a sacred vacuum, a vacuum where you're forced to hear your voice over his. You reclaim the power you once poured into proving your worth. You discover that the only one who can, totally be there. You discover that you are the only one who can deal with this at the moment. So that's why our divine masculine's absence is not abandonment. It's the soul's armor, forged not of steel but of silence. So we may not see it in this way now. You might not see it in this way now, but think back. Would you have activated your spiritual gifts if he had stayed? Would you have stepped into leadership if he had kept showing up? Would you have become who you are now if he had constantly reassured you? No. You would have stayed small, tethered, softened, and maybe even dependent on the love that hadn't yet grown into its highest potential. Our divine masculine distance was the forge that sharpened our blade, and not because he didn't love us, but because his soul knew exactly what we came to do. So he pulled back to let us rise. He held through absence. He fought for our future self, you see, by refusing to rescue the past one. That is protection unseen, uncelebrated, and absolutely divine and absolutely romantic. So the next time your mind says he's not here for me, remember this. Sometimes the deepest love is the one that watches you walk through the fire, not to leave you, but to meet you on the other side. All right, so finally, I want to wrap up this discourse. The cosmic shield, when the third energy protects us both. At a certain point in the twin flame journey, especially in the monadic twin flame journey, we will realize that this connection has a life of its own. It's not it's not you, it's not him, but the third field, the third energy, alive, intelligent, reactive, responsive, and protective. It holds memory, it holds destiny, and most of all, it holds us both. This third energy, often called the union field, is not just a spiritual tether, it's a cosmic shield. It deflects what isn't meant to enter. It reroutes timelines when one or both of you veer off course. It transmits warning signals, upgrades, and downloads across dimensions long before we see the evidence in 3D. And this is why so many of us divine feminines report sudden dreams, flashes, or gut instincts when something is happening in our divine masculine's life. It could be a post, it could be a Facebook photo, it could be something you shared, and your DM might not even be a sharer at all. It could be anything. It could be something you hear about from someone. All right? Because you're not spying, you're not imagining things, you're receiving transmissions from the shield that protects you both. And that shield is woven from that one thing, our shared mission. Not romantic fantasy, not emotional need, but the soul agreement to return home to our star systems, of course, in frequency together. So when the agreement is going strong, the third energy repels what threatens it, even if it's you in a distorted frequency, or our divine masculine in karmic crazy partying, having loser guy friends, totally telling him, hey, freedom is being free of your divine feminine. That's when the shielding can feel painful, because it separates you until you're both clean. So sometimes it's not the karmics or the external distorters, family, friends. Sometimes it is our higher selves protecting us from one another. So that's why the third energy's power is very, 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 very strong. It's like it echoes, it corrects, it warns, blocks. It keeps us from running after our divine masculine when our energy is leaking. It pulls our divine masculine back from us when his field is contaminated with fear or interference. And here's the highest truth: sometimes we won't be able to feel our divine masculine because the third energy is shielding you from him, and sometimes he can't feel you because the third energy is shielding him from your pain. It's not rejection, it's field intelligence. So the more coherent you become, the more sacred your own vibration, the stronger the third energy becomes, until eventually it stops repelling and starts magnetizing. And this is the greatest alchemy of monadic twin flame love. It's not just a journey of healing ourselves, it's a journey of activating the shared field, the love field that protects you from beyond space, time, and form. So when you don't know what's happening, when you feel like our divine masculines are going silent or something dark is in his field, don't panic. Ask the third energy, what are you shielding him from right now? What timeline are you protecting? What sacred upgrade is coming through? Because when the third energy is active, we are never alone. We are never alone. We are guarded by the love we both agree to anchor. And that moment, love becomes our home frequency. The field becomes a gateway. Not just in union, but in mission, remembrance, and divine embodiment. This is how, as twin flames, we go impact the world. By becoming the shield, by becoming the field, by becoming one without needing to merge physically first. But it follows through, because when love protects, it prepares, and union is right there. And I hope you've enjoyed this discourse. We really, really looked at the multi-dimensional protection, like how we protect each other. So if you guys want to work one-on-one with me, you can book a session via my website. In the description below, all my sessions are conducted by me via video call, one-on-one, live, usually through Zoom. So with that, I've also introduced some amazing healings and activations. Do check out my website, featured. I'm also going to introduce more healing, so do watch the space. And with that, this topic, you may feel it in different levels, but you would know what I mean. Sometimes it is what it is, right? Like, our divine masculine in separation may not be with us in the 3D, but he's certainly with us, because that's what he is meant to do, to protect us. So the next time you're feeling down, you're feeling upset, you're feeling like this is it, just remember one thing: our divine masculine is protecting us irregardless. That's why after meeting our divine masculine, there's always major, major changes in our lives. It may not look amazing in the beginning, but it's all building us, leading us to a bigger purpose, a higher purpose. And it's often soul changing, mission activations, things that you would have never done if you hadn't met your DM. So our divine masculine's protection, even in his bad behavior, is somewhere around there. Of course, don't entertain the bad behavior. Always discern. As divine feminines, we got to discern, between good behavior and bad behavior. And often our divine masculine behaves the way he behaves because the energies are too strong. And he acts the way he acts because he's not able to do anything else. With that, I'll see you all again for another discourse. Do take care and share your experience. Have you had your divine masculine protecting you, before an accident? Or, did you get a feeling that he was standing behind you? Did you feel like before something bad was going to happen, your divine masculine was actually, coming in to give you a warning through the etheric? Do comment. Do comment. All right, then, see you all again. Take care and bye-bye.